Think about someone you know. Maybe a colleague. Maybe someone you went to school with. Maybe a family member. Someone who never explains themselves. They make a decision. They change direction. They walk away from something everyone expected them to do. And when you ask them why, they give you nothing. No justification. No detailed breakdown. Just a short answer, or sometimes just silence, and you nod. But somewhere in the back of your mind, you find yourself wondering, what is actually going on with them? Are they hiding something? Are they arrogant? Are they avoiding accountability? Or is there something about them that the rest of us, constantly explaining our choices, justifying our decisions, seeking approval for our direction, have not yet figured out? Because here is what I have discovered. The man who never explains himself is not simply someone who forgot to respond to your question. He is operating from a psychological framework that is fundamentally different from the majority. And once you understand what that framework actually looks like, it might make you question everything about your own relationship with other people's approval. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. He wrote that the man who constantly explains himself is the man who constantly doubts himself. That explanation is not clarity. It is permission-seeking. And permission-seeking is the psychological foundation of dependency. Let us start with what explanation is actually about at a psychological level. Because most people think they explain to be helpful, to provide context, to make sure others understand. And on the surface, that is true. But research tells a more complicated story. A study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that one of the primary reasons people over-explain is what psychologists call impression management, the deeply human need to control how others perceive us. Every explanation we give, every justification we provide, every time we walk someone through our reasoning, is in some way a carefully constructed signal to the world about who we are, what our decision-making looks like, and how we want to be judged. We are not just providing information. We are seeking validation. We are asking the room, did I do the right thing? Do you approve? Can I still belong here even though I made this choice? Now, here is what makes men who never explain themselves so psychologically interesting. They have either consciously or unconsciously opted out of that system entirely. And the reasons why fall into several distinct psychological profiles. Profile 1. High autonomy and internal locus of control. The first is what researchers call a high need for autonomy and a strong internal locus of control. Some men have an unusually strong sense of boundaries around their decision-making process and their personal direction. For them, explaining a choice does not feel like clarity. It feels like exposure. It feels like handing something deeply personal over to an audience that has not earned it. These are often men with a strong internal sense of self who do not require external validation to feel secure in their choices. They know why they made the decision. They do not need 3 people to confirm that it was the right one. The decision was made. The explanation is irrelevant. What matters is execution, not consensus. The second reason is rooted in strategic silence and power dynamics. And this is more common than most people realize. Machiavelli observed that the man who explains everything surrenders leverage, because explanation creates accountability to the listener. It positions the other person as judge. And once you have positioned someone as judge, you have given them authority over your choices. Men who never explain themselves understand this instinctively. It is not that they do not want to share. It is that sharing creates obligation, and obligation creates dependency, and dependency erodes power. So they make the move. They change the plan. They walk away. and they let the results speak, because results are inarguable, explanations are not. If this is landing differently than you expected, hit the like button right now. Profile 2. Freedom from social anxiety through non-engagement. The third profile, and this one is less obvious, is about freedom from social anxiety through strategic non-engagement. Most people think that not explaining creates tension. But for men who operate this way, it does the opposite. It eliminates it. Because here is what explanation actually requires. You have to anticipate what the other person is thinking. You have to manage their emotional reaction. You have to preemptively address objections you imagine they might have. You have to defend your choice before it has even been questioned. That is exhausting. And it is a form of self-imposed interrogation. I watched this happen with a colleague once. He made a decision that affected the entire team. Bold decision, unconventional. And immediately, the questions started coming. Why this approach? Have you considered the alternatives? What made you think this would work? And instead of walking through his entire reasoning process, instead of justifying each step, he said 5 words. I have thought it through. That was it. No breakdown, no detailed defense, just that. And here is what happened. The room went quiet. Not because people were satisfied, because they realized he was not going to play the game they expected him to play. He was not going to hand them a map of his decision-making process so they could pick it apart. Within 2 weeks, the decision proved itself. And the people who questioned him never brought it up again. Men who never explain themselves have figured out something most people miss. You do not owe anyone access to your internal process. You do not owe anyone a breakdown of your reasoning. You do not owe anyone comfort about your choices. The decision is yours. The outcome is yours. The explanation is optional. And most of the time, withholding it protects your peace more than providing it ever could. Profile 3. Autonomy from external validation. The fourth profile is perhaps the most psychologically evolved. These are men who have developed what researchers call autonomy from external validation. Studies on self-determination theory show that human beings have a fundamental psychological need for competence, connection, and autonomy. Most people meet their need for connection and competence through social approval, through feedback, through explanation and response and adjustment based on how others react. But men in this fourth group have found ways to meet those needs entirely internally, through their own standards, through meaningful work, through a stable internal sense of identity that does not require an audience. I have seen this in men who have been through something difficult, a failure, a betrayal, a public humiliation, something that forced them to rebuild their sense of self without external support. And what they discovered in that rebuilding process was this. They did not need anyone's permission to know who they were. That realization changes everything. Because once you know you can stand alone, once you know your sense of self does not depend on consensus, you stop performing for the room. You stop explaining. You stop seeking approval, not out of arrogance, out of self-sufficiency. These men are not refusing to explain because something is wrong with them. They are refusing because they have found something more sustaining than approval. They have found internal validation. And internal validation does not require an audience. If you are not subscribed yet, hit that button now. Because what is coming next is the part most men never realize. Here is something that the research makes very clear and that I think is worth sitting with. A study from the Journal of Experimental Social Psychology found that people who constantly justify their decisions to others experience significantly higher levels of decision fatigue and lower confidence in their choices over time. Another study found that the act of explaining a decision to someone who disagrees with it actually weakens your own conviction. Your brain begins to process the other person's objections as your own doubts. And the more you explain, the more uncertain you become. The men who never explain themselves are also, in most cases, not seeking permission either. And that absence of constant approval seeking quietly protects their decision-making clarity in ways they may not even fully realize. There is one more thing I want to say. In a world where the pressure to justify your life has never been greater, where people are expected to explain their career moves, their relationship choices, their political views, their spending, their priorities, where every decision is increasingly treated as a public matter requiring consensus. Choosing not to explain is quietly becoming one of the most radical acts of psychological self-preservation available to men. It is saying, "This decision is mine. I do not need to justify it to make it valid. I do not need your approval to know that I am moving in the right direction." The men who never explain themselves are not withholding information out of arrogance. In many ways, and the research supports this, they have already figured out something the rest of us are still learning. A decision made with conviction does not need an explanation to be respected. But here's where most men get it wrong. They think that refusing to explain means refusing to communicate. And that is not the same thing. There is a difference between "I do not owe you an explanation" and "I will never share my reasoning with anyone." The men who operate at the highest level understand this. They do not explain to seek approval, but they will share their reasoning with people who have earned that access. People who are not judging. People who are not waiting for permission to dismiss the choice. The difference is this. Explanation is defensive. Sharing is selective. One is about protecting yourself from judgment. The other is about deepening trust with the people who matter. And the man who knows the difference will never waste his time justifying himself to people who are never going to support him anyway. The decision point. So here is the question. Where in your life are you explaining yourself to people who have not earned that access? Where are you justifying decisions that do not require justification? Where are you seeking approval from people whose opinion should not matter? Because that is the trap. You think you are being transparent. You think you are being accountable. But what you are actually doing is handing your power to anyone willing to sit there and listen while you convince them you made the right choice. And the moment you stop, you will realize something. The people who mattered never needed the explanation, and the people who needed the explanation never mattered. If this changed how you see yourself, do not stop here. Hit the subscribe button, because every video on this channel is designed to sharpen your mindset, increase your power, and separate you from the average. And if you found value in this, leave a comment. When did you realize you did not owe anyone an explanation? I read every single one.